It is one of my favorite days of the week because we get to chat together all about cycle. Today I am sharing 4 tips to begin the journey of living in alignment with cycle. One of the biggest pieces of my business is I try to be very beginner friendly. I think that we can get very overwhelmed when we are making big life changes and going through transition periods in our lives, whether that's a spiritual transition, an emotional, physical, relational. We can get really overwhelmed with where do I start and how do I start? And we all know that the most important thing is just to start. So one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, how do I start this journey of living in alignment with my cycle? If you are new here, my name's Hannah. I'm a holistic coach and mentor. I am the founder of Journey to Well. Be sure to follow me on social media, specifically on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. I try to be mindful to share my day-to-day, how I'm living in alignment with where I am exactly in my cycle, whether that's the follicular, ovulatory, luteal, or menstrual phase. I also chat a lot about the moon cycles because I understand that sometimes our menstrual cycle can also overwhelm us if we are someone that is on birth control and we're maybe not having a regular cycle, or we are pre or post menopause. Also be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos. Okay, so let's dive in, my friends. I'm going to be honest, I haven't made a YouTube video in a while. We just finished our Sync series on my YouTube channel, so I'm going to be referring back to those videos because there's a lot of juicy information there with collaborations that I did with such beautiful and knowledgeable humans, so be sure to check that out. But as I was reflecting on these amazing collaborations and all of this information, the next question then becomes, okay, how do I start on my journey? Where do I start on my journey? And I think really the most important place to start is talking about the why. Why is this even important? Why even live in alignment with our cycle? We live in a very masculine energy dominated world. That's just a fact, and it's not a bad thing necessarily, although it can get very overwhelming when we are constantly living in that burnout cycle of always feeling like we need to be producing, always feeling like we need to go at 100% at all the time. This is not sustainable. I've lived in it for years and I had that burnout cycle. I've experienced that. And it also comes with a lot of shame and guilt. Like, what am I doing wrong? How come I cannot always be in this production mode? And so something must be wrong with me, right? I lived through that and I empathize with you if you are feeling that way. Heck, I still live that way because we live in that kind of energy. So this is where living in alignment with our cycle really comes into play. Nature has 4 seasons: summer, spring, winter, fall. The moon has 4 main phases: the full moon, the waning moon, the new moon, the waxing moon. We as females have 4 phases of our menstrual cycle: the ovulation phase, the luteal phase, the menstrual phase, and the follicular phase. How I take this coincidence, if you want to call it that, is that this is proof that we are not created, we are not meant to live a linear life. Life is very cyclical. We see this played over and over in nature, and we are part of nature. We come from nature. There's so much power in allowing ourselves to live in line with cycle rather than hold the expectation, the unreasonable expectation that we must always be living in one phase or the other. Typically, the phase that we feel pressure to live in is the summer season or the ovulation phase or the full moon. This is a season of high productivity. This is a phase of harvesting, if you want to talk in farming terms. It's a really fun phase to be in, and I enjoy it just as much as everyone else. However, the concern here is that if we're constantly living in just this phase or holding the expectation that we need to be living in just this phase, we end up getting really fucking tired. Imagine if we lived in a world where it was always summer. The season was always summer. There was never any cooler days, there was never any leaves changing, there was never any flowers popping up. So if you go back and watch the 3 collaboration videos that we just did in our Sync series, you will hear me ask the question, why do you choose to live in alignment with your cycle? What have you gotten out of it? To all of the people that I collaborated with. So if you'd like some more explanation there, go ahead and start on this video. All right, so 4 tips to begin the journey of living in alignment with our cycle. Tip number 1 is to get out in nature. I remember on my awakening journey or my healing journey, whatever you want to call it, I remember having conversations with my mentor like, I need to be outside. All I want to do is be in the mountains. I want to be in the trees. I want to go hiking. I want to be at the beach. I want to feel the salt water on my skin. And my awakening journey started when I was living in the city. I was living right outside New York City for about 4 years. So I want to be very mindful to make sure that we include everyone that's living in a city. There are still opportunities for you to ground, to get out in nature. It just might look a little bit different than, say, where I am now, where I can go hiking every single day. There is an inherent and effortless pull, a grounding pull of energy when we get out in nature, when we connect our bare feet to the earth, when we get out and smell the air and smell the trees and the flowers and the leaves and get sunshine on our face. There's so much healing energy that comes there that we don't even have to know everything that's happening or all the science behind it, although we could certainly have that conversation. But there's so much that nature effortlessly gives us. One of the things that I love to say is that very few things are completely free in this life, right? We always talk about how things don't come free. This is one exception. Being out in nature, nature wants to freely give to us. Mother Earth wants to give to us. So soak that in, soak that energy up. It's also a really great way to help your body begin to naturally align the menstrual cycle to the cycle of the moon. You may notice as you begin this journey and walk through this journey, if you have an irregular period, getting out in nature more often and with more mindfulness, you may notice your period begin to shift and start aligning to the moon phases. Number 2 is a little bit more logistical. It's learn the phases and what each phase brings energy-wise, what it's inviting us to do. And you can start anywhere. I like to have conversations using all 3, whether we're talking about the physical seasons that we go through, the menstrual phase, or the moon phase. So you'll find in my videos that I try to correlate them all together, but start in one place and do a deep dive there. Like I mentioned earlier, living in the ovulation phase or the summer phase or the full moon phase, what that energy brings. Let's talk a little bit about what the winter energy brings. Winter is associated with the new moon phase, with our menstrual phase when we're physically bleeding. I like to talk about the seasons because it's very easy for me to describe and imagine, because winter is a beautiful time to hibernate, right? Like, let's listen, let's pay attention to what animals do and what happens in nature in winter. Things close down, things are covered with snow. We as humans typically feel like being inside more, cozying up next to the fire or under a nice warm blanket, drinking warm tea. As women, we go through this phase every single month when we are menstruating. Beginning to make small shifts, checking in with our body. That is the most important thing here, to check in repeatedly with ourselves. How are you feeling, body? What sensations are you experiencing right now? How are you feeling in your body? Where are you feeling a sensation in your body? What does that sensation feel like? Is it warm? Is it prickly? Is it tingly? What does it feel like to you? What is this sensation? That's the somatics behind the work that we do if we work together. But simply beginning to notice the shift in energy levels throughout the month, because we do have shifts of energy levels. But if you've watched any videos of my story, there was a lot of time where I spent shoving that down, not checking in with myself, turning away from when I felt tired and instead pushing through and forcing. So maybe begin a cycles journal. Maybe just take 5 minutes in each phase when you know that you're ovulating, you know that you're in your follicular, you know that you're menstruating, you know that you're near luteal, and taking 5 minutes and just checking in with yourself. How am I feeling through this phase? Have I experienced higher energy or have I experienced lower energy? What have my emotions been like? And there's no judgment here. There's no right or wrong. Some months look very different than other months for me. But beginning that process of checking in with self and then honoring that. If you feel tired one week, maybe you are menstruating, maybe you're in your winter phase. What can I do to honor this right now? Can I take 5 minutes and do a little meditation in the morning? Or can I carve out time in my day for a bath or to cook myself a nourishing meal or for time to just step away from my family? Can I ask my husband or my partner to take care of the kids one night so that I can have a little bit of time? It doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be this huge thing. I fully understand that when we start this journey, there can be so much overwhelm. So my invitation is just to create one opportunity. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 minutes that you are honoring your body and what it's asking for. Tip number 3 is honor your movement or your exercise depending on which cycle you're in. So I created an entire video right here on cycle syncing, and I talk about types of movement depending on which phase we're in. And I think I mostly just talk about what phase we're in our menstrual cycle. But hopefully, if you're watching my other videos, you can also equate them to the seasons and the moon cycles. When we have more energy, when we're ovulating, when we're in that full moon or summer season, maybe taking time to go lift weights or do that HIIT workout, schedule that cycling class. When we're in our menstrual phase, instead of pushing ourselves like I used to do. So please remember that I am preaching to myself as much as I'm sharing this information with you. But when we're in our menstrual phase, maybe honoring ourselves with just taking a walk or doing some yin yoga rather than pushing ourselves to go to the gym. And tip number 4 is to begin living in alignment with nutrition, how we're feeding our bodies and fueling our bodies depending on which phase we're in. There is a beautiful collaboration video that I did with my friend Rachel right here, and we talk about living in alignment from a nutrition standpoint. There are so many simple places to start here. Be sure, again, to follow me on Instagram. I chat pretty often about what I'm eating depending on which cycle I'm in, so you can gain some ideas there, and always feel free to reach out and DM me with your questions too. So there we have it, friends, 4 tips to begin the journey of living in alignment with our cycle. I really took a deep dive in living in alignment with my cycle, I would say about 2 years ago now, and I can tell you it is a journey. It's going to change from month to month, from phase to phase. And I just want to leave you with the reminder that this is a journey. This life is a journey. This living in alignment with cycle is a journey. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Remember to give yourself grace and extend yourself compassion through this process. Feel free to reach out with any questions or comments down below. Until next time, my friends, be well.